All right, here we go again. Buckle up. Trump might be the president of the United States, but I'm the commander. I'm the commander of the United States. So there are several options again. So we have to start thinking about hybrid deployments. Right. So we open up our options. Uh, Quite possibly, I don't know, if you're going to buy vehicles or not. You could buy those Lenkos and give them to Bavino's crew at a minimum, right? That could be the what do they call that? When I was in the 101st, they gave us we had these 2.5 ton dump trucks initially. Again, we lightened up over the years, but we had these 2.5 ton dump trucks, and they gave us a like a half track kit for it that we had a research and development kind of deal, right? So you can put that out there if you need to for justification, research and development. Right? I don't know what they cost; they're pretty pricey, I'm sure, but that would be great. I thought they were already in use somewhere because it said Border Patrol. So I thought, I mean, they were used in Farmington. So yeah, that's one of the things that people don't look at. Like when the military gets involved, you do cut down on the number of people that are. I mean, it can inflame because it only inflames because you're not arresting the people that are inflaming it for inflaming. Right? It's conspiracy, some sort of conspiracy there. Right? You have to link them in. See, they don't want to do that because sometimes it's Republican operators. See, this is the bullshit, right? Now you're getting into the big balls scenario in Portland with Nick Sorter. It's not a good look. Right. Agreed. Big balls gets in trouble in Portland, so now you protect him with the DOJ, and you're dissing cops, right? So we're shown this idea of Nick Sorter. It's obviously propaganda where he's protecting the flag, but we're not seeing why he was detained. Right. And pretty much that's all that's happened at this point. Now, you have to be careful because you're getting into something right now that's going to screw up your own operations. Because you do this all the time. You detain people all the time. Right. You see? And now, what have you done? You've launched an investigation on detention. Well, Nick Sorter shouldn't be out there doing that. Right. Like I tell people, if you're going to protest, do something like Woodstock. Go away from the major city. Right. That's the responsible thing to do. Now, of course, they use amount of narcotics behind safety, but right. No, he's not. He's not a conservative. He went in there and he's mixing in with uh, rioters and people that obviously he's paid millions of dollars to do it. Okay, that's obvious. Right. So we're not here to play Loomer, Nick Sorter, pseudo government employee games. Right. You protect Nick Sorter more than you do the government employees. That's a bad look. Right. Well, again, government employees only have to put up with you for another 3 years. That's the way they look at it, or so. Right. And then all those other people get rehired. Right. Well, you do the right thing, or suffer being put out. Right. So I'm sure we're not seeing the facts of his arrest. I'm sure he did something. Right. What? Oh, it's just Nick Sorter. We have to like not do anything. Well, the idea of Antifa not being arrested. The idea is this: they're burning a flag. They're doing this. They're doing that. Fine. They get close. What happens? Your special response team pulls them in, arrests them. Right. So again, your people are not supposed to be in that posture of interacting with the rioters. Right. Thank you, Larry. Yes, he should sit idly by if the American flag is getting burned because they're allowed to do it, and we have people there to handle it when it gets beyond a certain point. That's the United States. If you don't like it, move on somewhere else because they're going to put you all on somewhere else. Right? No, you just probably lost a few cops with that one. You know, you're just chipping away at your support all of you. Right. See, the coalition against the Trump administration increases while you do this. Right. It's friction. I called it friction. Right. I'm sure Portland's doing what they need to do to maintain what public order they maintain. Well, there's different theories about protests, you know, from one city to the next, from one department to the next. Right. Sometimes letting people vent actually does a better job of maintaining order than it does clashing. But again, there are limits of what you allow people to do. Well, I don't think it's a good idea for any conservative to go to those places. I've told you that since 2017. Let the professionals handle it. If you don't enjoy what the professionals are doing, well, again, maybe you can discuss it. Or you're not pleased with it, whatever you want to say in that regard. Well, Sauter probably had an interaction that caused a clash of peoples versus just burning flags and that kind of craziness, right? What you want to do in Chicago is you need that fence further out. I think that's what one of your problems is, right? And then the state police, the local police, and feds can be on the, you know, on that further out distance. So you have a larger no man's land kind of deal. You have a larger protected, secured area. They're too close. I think, I'm not sure, but I think they're too close to the facility. Well, that causes an exigence in the battle. Versus if the fence was further out, it really doesn't matter because they're, you know, whatever distance you make it. As long as you have a gate guy or gal, they can't say anything about, you know, not having access. Right. What you're doing is you're creating a kind of a mini green zone, I think they called it. Right. But if you have somebody that operates that gate, they can't say nothing. Right. Now, no federal judge will say that you're wrong. What you're doing is you're restricting that aspect of it. Again, the business owners aren't going to say anything because, you know, it's the whole world's deep state, but they want some protection there. Yeah. So you keep those people off of their properties, they'll be pleased. Now the other people might not be pleased with the new front line, but no, when we look at the possibilities of what could be done, I think the fence is too close. Well, we had an escalation to an ambush already. The only thing is only one person was armed, which is kind of a godsend there. Right. It could have been a Gordon Call type of incident. A Weaver type of incident. Maybe that's why Roderick's coming up. I don't know. Just don't shoot the dog. Thank you, Larry. So I would move the fence further out. I mean, that's probably, so, you know, that would be okay. Like, you can do that, but, you know, as far as saying we're going to investigate the police department, you know, it's a liberal city. I mean, they're going to allow more than you're going to allow in another city, but, you know, or a federal operation, but, you know, it's probably not unlawful. Right. Then Nick Sauter, the problem is you get this guy, Nick Sauter, who's like Big Balls, who's like Laura Loomer, who's like all these nutsos who really have no experience of anything, just talking shit and getting paid by big entities to do their bidding. Right. Well, you just diss police officers over Nick Sorter. Obviously, Nick Sorter has your protection. Police officers don't. I know it probably happened. There was an interaction that caused something, and Nick Sorter was part of it. If he wasn't there, that interaction wouldn't have happened. Well, in Oregon, in Portland, part of their theory is that you let the protester do things to a certain degree, and that could minimize their frustration and thus decrease the level of aggression and the length of aggression, or the time where the aggression exists. Venting is a law enforcement tool, allowing people to vent to a certain lawful degree. Now, again, it is unlawful what they're doing, and obviously there are professionals there that carry them off into the darkness when it gets beyond a certain point. Well, if law enforcement deems Nick Sorter causing an interaction, an escalation in interaction, then they're going to remove him. Right? They could even not charge him. Because again, you're coming against Portland for stuff you're doing. Right? This idea where you protect your I mean, it's Soviet. You're protecting your political people, your political officers over the law enforcement. I agree. Numerous a political officer. Sorter's a political officer. If you look at the structure, right? 100%. It's Soviet. You want to be Soviet? Go live in Russia. If you keep going, you might have to if you don't want to get arrested. Right. I mean, we're down to almost 3 years now. I told you to stay away from that shit before. You wouldn't have had J6 if you'd listened to me. Right. And you may have actually did another 4 years back to back. Right. So we want a larger intelligence deployment. Something again. I know you ordered more equipment and you're waiting for that or something supposedly, right? But let's get more eyes and ears and more people for the intelligence mission. Again, you bring SF guys in there and they can help you strategize. Right? I know you're not idiots, but right. Well, when Bavino's patrolling, I guess you do have some people in the rear, right, running command centers. But we have some additional people, right, to strategize and then maybe even to not micromanage, but micro strategize each operation. Agreed. Which we're increasing the eyes and ears and the mind behind each particular operation. Well, we lost. That's a loss. That's an ambush, a successful ambush. It's kind of like tag, but one person had a gun, right? Thank you much. Now they don't get that's a loss. That's a loss. They don't get in that close. And that's the point with the detention facilities. We don't want them in that close. We need to move them out further. There's too large of a number to allow them to get in that close. You got to move them out, and that'll piss them off. I mean, that's a way to fight back. You don't like our fence? Now look at our fence. All right. Nah, the fence needs to go further out. I had concerns about the fence initially; it was too close in, but you weren't experiencing that level of aggression. And actually, I'm not sure of the mechanics of it. If it's on the ground, I could see it. But what I'm saying is, if you look at what their gripe is, you might be able to actually cut them. Can you do? Can you? Okay, so there's a couple things here. If you go down to where I think there's an elbow in the road there somewhere, or an intersection. If you go down and put the fence there, and then go to the other side and do that, then you don't. Then you have that whole road, but you don't have. Oh, I guess yeah, we have to put it around the backside. That would work too well. Right? How to secure. Yeah, I guess we can't go that far. What I was thinking of, you could reroute traffic patterns away. So even so, and then you could contact Google, and I think they can actually tell GPS that there's some way to tell GPS not to include that section of road, right? Unless they directly want to go to a business on that road. So the fire truck, if it's running GPS, will be routed away from that section, and then it won't take them any extra time unless they need to go into that section. Correct. But that might take too many people to monitor. You can do two. You could have two sections. Well, I'm going to step away for a second here, but there's a couple things you might want to do there as far as contacting Google or whoever, the machine that does GPS, to not see that as a throughway unless they're trying to go to the specific address behind the fence. So nobody gets, they get routed around the other side. So they don't have to go